So we are live on YouTube. Welcome everybody to this wonderful weekly live of now. I'm going live on Facebook as well. I think I'm live, and I'm now going live on Instagram as well. I should be live on all our social media. It's always a great pleasure to host this weekly live every Tuesday. As you can notice, once is myself, once is my co-founder now, Colomb. But it's always very funny, very entertaining. So let's just wait a few seconds for people to join, to notice the live. Today, I would like to cover with you a very important campaign. There is the Vaccines Without Borders campaign, because we have a very cool and interesting action coming up this week. And as well, I would like to go through what went on Monday, yesterday, on International Women's Day, where our team leaders from all over the planet joined forces to send a very strong message about female empowerment, about how to be a leader. And I think that is a great lesson for all of us, male and females, and any other gender. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm just waiting for the time to come to start this live. But I see already people logging in and joining. So welcome everybody. I'm going to look. Instagram is a bit taller than Facebook and YouTube, so forgive me, sometimes I don't look straight into the camera. But once more, welcome, and I think we are ready to start. So as you know, yesterday was International Women's Day, a very important day for humankind as a whole, and a very important day especially right now, where across the planet there are progressive forces fighting for stronger female empowerment and having especially more female into leadership positions. And I say that as a man, as a male, because I completely recognize how the lack of gender diversity in female leadership position is a huge blockage for development, for better policy creation in political level, for better decision making at all levels of our societies. So as now, 1 year ago, we started our second campaign called Run Like a Woman, with the idea of advocating for more women leaders in position of power across national parliaments, across governments, wherever it matters. With the idea that we know, and is backed by studies, that the more female leaders you have in power, the better policies you have. And I mean, during this crisis, we have seen, for example, the way that New Zealand, Germany, and other countries where women leaders were very strong had answered probably way better on average than other leaders to this pandemic. But anyway, so 1 year ago, we launched with this campaign. We built a coalition of politicians from all over the planet to support it. And then COVID came, and obviously we had to juggle among other campaigns as well. But this Monday, we went super straight into the topic with a very, very powerful campaign video. And if you didn't see it yet, I invite you to go on our social media and check it out. Because for me, it was one of those videos that gives you shiver. Very strong message, very powerful message. We basically brought together all our female leaders from our local teams. Out of 30 official local teams, 29 official local teams, we have 15 female leaders. So we are very much for gender parity, even if it was actually mostly a coincidence. Even if we advocate for gender parity, we always try to get gender balance in leadership position. But these women leaders came together and sent very strong message to our followers, to our membership, basically showcasing how important it is to have female leaders in power, and how it's already happening. It's not a dream, it's not a faraway future, but they showed how themselves, they've taken the lead in their community, from Denver in the US, to Rome in Italy, to Kenya in Nairobi in Kenya, to take the lead and really inspire people around them to join this fight for equality, this struggle for freedom that is also between genders. So I invite you to go and see the wonderful video we posted yesterday on our timeline on all social media, and reflect upon what can we do as, for example, for me as a male, to support more women candidates in elected officials, to support more women leaders in business and private and in the private sector, to ensure that the strength and power of women comes up and is not constrained by discrimination, unfavorable conditions, and all those things that me as a stereotype of a man has put together for generations, for centuries, to prevent this to happen. So please go and see our video. And if you still didn't do so, please sign our campaign, Run Like a Woman. I think Columbus posted on Facebook and probably on other social media. It's a very, very cool campaign that we are aiming to expand. Sorry, I think Instagram had a problem. I'm trying to unlock it. Apologies for this inconvenience during my speech. I'll be there in a second. Yes, I'm back. Sorry for Instagram. It crashed in a second. So I was saying, please go on the webpage, sign it, and there are going to be many more exciting events about this topic. Next week, we have a wonderful event with women leaders discussing about, obviously, this topic, with Colom moderating, my co-founder. And even more interestingly, by the end of the month, we're going to have actually end of April, we're going to have a very, very cool surprise in terms of we're going to have a top speaker that I don't want to unveil yet. But just to tell you, it's going to be a top official taking part in one of our events and ensuring that our message of equality, of freedom, of support among genders becomes even louder and reaches even farther. So please check out our campaign that Columbus posted everywhere. Aside from that, I want to mention that this week is also very important because on Thursday, sadly for all of us, it's a very important but sad date. 1 year ago, in 2020, on the 11th of March, the World Health Organization declared that COVID-19 was a pandemic. It gave the status of a pandemic, meaning that the disease was widespread across the world in many countries, and it was becoming a global problem, and not more a regional or national one. And so because of this date, we have decided to organize a very important stand actions that I won't reveal in details, but the idea, if you have followed our campaign for vaccines and related to COVID, the idea is that today in the world, we don't have enough vaccines. And I think we can, wherever we're from, maybe even in Israel, because Israel didn't share it with their Palestinian co-citizen. So it's clearly an issue even in Israel, even if Israel is way more advanced than other countries in terms of deployment. In all countries on this planet, we don't have enough vaccines. We could be saving hundreds of lives as of now if we were actually to share vaccines and to have enough vaccines for all of us, but it's not the case. How come? Because big pharmas all over the planet have sadly monopolized the supply of vaccines. So from Pfizer to Moderna to AstraZeneca, I mean, they have done obviously an incredible job to come up in the first place with this vaccine. But now that it's clear that the production is too slow and human lives are at risk or being lost because of this slow deployment, we have said together with many other NGOs, it's time to share the formula behind this vaccine, the IP, the technology, to ensure that more companies can produce this vaccine. And we completely understand that there is a big financial reason why a company like Pfizer would not be interested in sharing the vaccine. And it's completely understandable. That's why we say, look, it's completely understandable. Keep on doing what you're doing in wealthy countries, sell the license, sell the technology, make profit, you deserve it, but please don't do the same in low to middle income countries. There are countries that are extremely at risk of not receiving any vaccine before 2023 or even 2024, and protecting their population. These are one of the biggest historical injustices that any of us will ever witness if this happens. Especially because, as I said, there is a possibility to increase the vaccination. there is a possibility to expand the volume of vaccine produced, but it's a precise choice of certain players not to do so. So as a movement, as now, we are advocating for vaccines without borders. We have launched a campaign where you can basically email Pfizer through our website and ask Pfizer, as the first company that has discovered the vaccine, as one of those companies that didn't take any measure to try to spread the vaccine around. You can ask them to take decisive actions and actually ensure that in low to middle income countries, the vaccine can be produced by local companies with an agreement, through an agreement with Pfizer. So join us, and as I said on Thursday, said is the anniversary of the declaration of COVID being a pandemic, and we have organized a very powerful action with our teams all over the planet to mark this date and push Pfizer to take action. So if you're a member of now, if you're a team leader now, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, be ready on the 11th to share a message all over your social media, all over your circle, over your network, because it's a very important campaign, and it's not a very important campaign because we decide there is a priority for the world. If we succeed, life will be spared. It's very easy, it's very simple. There's a direct relation from the success of our campaigns or other campaigns about sharing vaccine and human lives. And if you care about human lives, you can take a stance and ensure that the vaccine is spread. So this is my call to action. Please, on Thursday, check out our social media. Be ready to share. Be ready to comment. Be ready to send it to friends. Say, hey, we need to take charge. We need to participate in the Vaccines Without Borders campaign. Having said that, as I cover women's rights, I cover vaccine, and then I want to just give a final shout out to our probably biggest campaign today. There is the Wave of Freedom campaign, which I'm particularly proud about. It's the campaign that we have launched now 8 months ago to support freedom fighters all over the planet, from Hong Kong to Belarus to Russia to Venezuela to Myanmar, sadly today. And the idea of the campaign is very simple. We have seen for decades authoritarian leaders crushing upon freedom fighters, pro-democracy fighters in several countries all over the planet. And there's always the same situation. Countries all over, democratic leaders condemn the action, impose some sanctions sometimes, but nothing really changes. And when the situation is solved, it's often too late. Tens of thousands of people have died, human rights have been destroyed, and countries have been ruined forever. So we want to avoid this to happen. We want to ensure that this time around, when we see human rights violation, as we are seeing in Hong Kong, in Myanmar, in Venezuela, in Belarus, in Russia, in Nigeria, in many other places all over the planet, we want to make sure that someone can stand up and say, no, this cannot continue. This is not what we want, and we're gonna strongly oppose it through economic and diplomatic sanction. And who is this someone? Is the League of Democracy. Our proposal, that is actually being endorsed already by several stakeholders in different forms and shapes, is the idea of bringing together all the democracies all over the planet, or at least starting with the most influential ones, to ensure that this democracy have a mission, a shared hope, the one of being able to impose sanctions and protect freedom fighters all over the planet. So that next time that China cracks down on activist leaders in Hong Kong, this League of Democracy can say, hey, China, if you do that, forget about trading with us for the next year. And you'll see in the space of a few minutes that even an economic giant like China will not want to be cut off by 30, 40, 50 countries in a row. And this might change the course of history. This might change the course of democracy, because no authoritarian country can stand up alone against a League of Democracies. So this is what we are advocating for. And in June, we have a particularly important deadline. In June, there's going to be the G7 meeting will be hosted here in the United Kingdom, in Cornwall. And the United Kingdom has been historically friendly to the idea of a League of Democracies. That is why we believe is a fundamental moment for all those that believe in democracy to come together and advocate incredibly strongly for this league to happen. This is what we are working for every Friday, with our action Fridays for Freedom. We're advocating for democracies. We are protesting in front of government buildings. By the way, follow us this Friday at 5 p.m. UK time for our weekly protest in front of Downing Street, number 10. I'll be there, and obviously our teams are advocating for the same reason across the planet in different cities. But we always stream the protests in London on our social media. Please join us. Please support this campaign because, again, sometimes these problems seem massive, huge. They seem unsolvable. But then when you actually get down to it, there is the possibility to solve a massive problem that have destroyed countries, people, families for decades. And the problem can be solved through political will. It's not about money. It's not about technology. It's not about incredible plans that cannot be realized as of now. It's about convincing a few leaders through popular pressure to come together, sit at the table, and do something that is in their own interest, supporting democracy. And obviously, this is something that many leaders keep on saying and keep on want to advance, but then we don't know exactly why, but still the idea of coming together as a league didn't happen. And so we must make it happen as soon as possible. Because if a League of Democracy was in existence today, the situation in Myanmar might have already been solved. If the League of Democracy was in place today, all those brave Hong Kongers now in jail might be free. If the League of Democracy was in place today, people like Alexei Navalny might be actually talking to us online instead of being alone in a prison in a remote region of their country. So it's extremely timely, extremely pressuring, and there are many other causes to advocate for. But I think that without freedom, everything else is meaningless. Without freedom, you can't have rights. Without freedom, you can't have prosperity. Without freedom, you can't see a future for your children and grandchildren. Freedom is the centerpiece of everything we do. And it's extremely important to find a solution for the deterioration of democracy and freedoms that we have seen in our lifetime. And we believe this is the solution. So go to our website, now.org/freedom, sign our petition, join our Actions Fridays for Freedom. Don't let authoritarian get away with it. It's all upon us. It's all about our determination of fighting back. And I've seen so many brave protesters in this 8 months, through COVID, through the winter, through all the problems that we had to face to protest. They still show up every Friday in front of the San Francisco Consulate session, in front of London number 10 Downing Street, in front of many other key buildings and landmarks across the planet, with a placard saying, Fridays for Freedom, I stand for freedom, I will not give up. If instead of seeing a few protesters, we would see a big share of the population, tomorrow the League of Democracy will happen. So let's not be selfish. Let's not think that because we live in democracy, the problem is not ours. First of all, it might soon be. Because with countries like Russia and China growing exponentially and is extending their influence, we are not safe even in our own house. But second of all, is ethically and morally the right thing to do. Remember when you were a kid what your parents taught you, what your grandparents taught you. You don't leave others behind. It's the simplest lesson that we are taught as kids. We can't be selfish. You can't only think about yourself, but we forget about it when we become adults. Get it back. Think about when you were a kid. Think about how important was, in the words of your teacher, of your family, to support others that were struggling, to ensure that others had the same opportunities that you had. Do the same, but do it now, because the time is running out for many proud freedom fighters all over the planet, and we can't let it happen. And when these words of hope, I hope they convince you to join this campaign or our movement as a whole. Because as you can see, I listed only in the last 10 minutes three main problems, three problems that are very big and very defining of our time. But I didn't only list problems, I also listed solutions. And this is something that sometimes people forget. There are solutions for this problem. The world is dark, we can bring light. The world is difficult, we can fight back. You feel lonely, there are many other people feeling like you. It's only the idea of coming together and try to fight back and try to find common ground from all over the planet to build a new world that can give us the hope that we're looking for. So I found my hope in this movement. I hope you can find it too, but I hope you can find it also in other movements and incredible initiatives all over the planet, NGOs way bigger than ours, working for women many years than ours, that are fighting back, that are not leaving any ground to authoritarians, to those that only think about capital and not people, to those deciding that profits are more important than lives. We are not, we are fighting back. So my call to action for all of you following this live and whenever you see it is fight back as well. There is no reason why you can't sign a petition. There is no reason why you can't join a forum and discuss with other fellow humans about the hope you have for the future. There is no reason why you can't dedicate 10 minutes of your day to do a good action, even if you are the busiest human on the planet. So I'm asking you to take these 10 minutes to put it at the service of those that are suffering, those that are left behind, or simply of your future, of your family. With these 10 minutes, you can change the world. With these 10 minutes, you can change the future. With these 10 minutes, we can achieve things that have never been achieved before by humankind. I decided to put way more than 10 minutes. I want to dedicate my life to this cause. But this is a personal choice. If you can't dedicate your life to this choice, dedicate these 10 minutes and help us, help this movement to become the real force of change that we need in these difficult times. Thank you so much for following this live. Thank you for being so loyal and faithful to this weekly broadcast that we do every Tuesday at 5 p.m., 5:30 p.m. UK time. I hope I could inspire you in taking action and try to do a bit more. And I hope that I'm going to see you again, maybe in our rallies, in our events, in our protests, when this horrible pandemic will be over for everyone, not only for those that can afford it. And with this hope in mind, I say goodbye. Please leave comments under the lives. Please sign our petitions under the lives. And at any time, reach out to our email, info@now.org. If you have any question, any proposal, you want to be involved, we are here for you, and we hope you can be here for us. Thank you so much.